Welcome to the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Tuesday, August 1st. Over the next few days, we certainly will have an increase in moisture across the Great Basin, which has already begun. Thunderstorms and showers will continue to increase and spread north over the next several days, and by Wednesday and Thursday, make its way closer to central Idaho. We will see plenty of areas of wetting rain and gusty outflow winds with these thunderstorms. However, on the fringes is where we'll see the mix of wet and dry lightning, and this is something we'll certainly keep an eye on for parts of Idaho, especially up into central Idaho, where we have our most critical fuels in some areas and also our large fire activity. We'll continue to watch these storms as we may need some high risk depending on the nature of this lightning as we get towards the middle of the week. Otherwise, as this moisture spreads north, we will see drying in southern areas heading into the weekend. Over the last 24 hours, we've had significant lightning, especially over southern and eastern areas of the Great Basin, a little bit more isolated further north, and certainly some really good wetting rains, especially for parts of the Arizona Strip, eastern Nevada, and down into southern Utah. Great Basin fire activity yesterday reported we had 18 fires for 3.2 acres, with a growth of over 15,000 acres reported on the Elkhorn fire from IR. Otherwise, just smaller fires reported with the lightning that has occurred over southern and eastern areas. Again, this is where the moisture is located as well. Over the last 7 to 14 days, we've seen now above normal precipitation in parts of Utah and even into parts of far eastern Nevada, far eastern Idaho into Wyoming, and do definitely expect this to increase here over the next few days. Our current ERC percentiles, most critical areas are over western and northern areas that again have been out of this moisture in the south. As you can see, the drop in ERCs over the eastern and southern areas. Again, we'll continue to watch western and northern areas for any of that mix of wet and dry lightning. ERCs in the far north are now approaching records for the time of year for central Idaho, which is obviously where we have the Hayden fire. We're seeing similar conditions, maybe not quite as high for the Payette over towards Elkhorn, but again, ERCs continue to be on the rise and will continue until the moisture arrives. Further south, obviously ERCs have taken a significant downturn, and that will continue here over the next few days. The satellite loop from this morning shows the strong ridge of high pressure now shifted east into the southern plains. This is allowing plenty of monsoon moisture to track north over the Great Basin, and you can see that from the cloud cover. So again, we will see those showers and thunderstorms continue to increase here over the next couple of days and spread north. For later today, the bulk of the moisture will be located across the eastern half of Nevada into Utah and possibly near the Idaho border. So our significant fire potential certainly continues to drop over southern and eastern areas, but remains moderate or moderate to high depending on the area in parts of Idaho and into northwest and western Nevada. Relative humidity, a sharp contrast from the drier air to the north and west, where we have single-digit and teens RHs, to where the moisture is located, where our RHs will remain above 25 or 30%. We will see some breezy winds over parts of eastern Nevada into Utah and Arizona, outside of any thunderstorm outflow winds, but again, with plenty of moisture, limited concern there. And here's the precipitation forecast for today. You can see, obviously, a good wetting rains over the eastern portion of Nevada into Utah, especially in the higher terrain. And for Wednesday, this moisture starts to move further north, pushing up into Idaho. Not sure if it'll make its way all the way up to the Hayden and Elkhorn fires on Wednesday, but might be just shy. And again, moisture continues further south, so you will see that decrease in significant fire potential. Relative humidities really start to increase further north on Wednesday, so even if the moisture doesn't make its way up to central Idaho, we will see some increases in RH, probably upper teens to around 20%, and then we'll have to watch for any isolated drier storms on that northern fringe. Otherwise, gusty winds are expected over eastern Idaho and Wyoming and then down into southern areas of the Great Basin. Forecast precipitation for Wednesday, you can see the moisture, again, may not quite reach our large fires in central Idaho, but will be just to the south, so the main thing to watch out for is any mix of wet and dry lightning, and also those gusty outflow winds could be a concern for those two fires, especially on Wednesday. Otherwise, significant moisture further south and east. By Thursday is when we expect that greater push of moisture into central Idaho, and where we'll start to see a lot more drying in southern areas of the Great Basin. So we will again see that moisture impact central Idaho. Relative humidities will remain above 20 or 25% in the north, and again starting to dry out, seeing more of those already single-digit or low-teen RHs in the far south. Otherwise, winds will be low to moderate. We will see some of those breezy winds in central Idaho with those storms moving in. And the forecast precipitation for Thursday, again, some good chances of wetting rains, especially over eastern Idaho and Wyoming. Towards our large fire activity, maybe not quite as much over towards Elkhorn, and even Hayden might be kind of spotty as far as the heavier precip. So again, just something to monitor going into midweek. And here's the 3-day precipitation that takes all those days into account. Obviously, the heaviest precipitation from eastern Nevada into Utah, eastern Idaho, and Wyoming. Still staying on the drier side will be western and northwest Nevada, which might not get any of this moisture or just some isolated mixed wet and dry lightning. As we move into Friday, this moisture starts to push north into the northern Rockies. Still some thunderstorms likely remaining for parts of central Idaho, but much drier air moving into southern areas. So we are already seeing southern areas dry out. As we go into Saturday, that dry air really remains in place, so more drying for the south. Still some showers and thunderstorms up north. And then as we move into Sunday is where we really start to see more of that significant drying, southern, western areas, and even some drying up north into Idaho as well. And by Monday, very similar conditions. We might never really lose that thunderstorm activity over parts of eastern Idaho and Wyoming going through the weekend into early next week, but other areas will definitely see some drier conditions. 7-day total precip. Again, you can see the better chance in central Idaho for wetting rains will be towards the Hayden fire, maybe not quite as much towards Elkhorn, but again, still in the mix there, so we'll continue to watch that and hope for some decent precipitation up north. The 8 to 14-day outlook, taking us from August 8th through the 14th, still shows some wetter conditions up north for Idaho and Wyoming, so definitely welcome news. We'll see how this pans out, along with some cooler temperatures and then drier conditions in the south. That concludes our webcast for today. Check back tomorrow for the latest updates.